Dr. Rebecca Martinez was having the most ordinary Tuesday of her life. When everything changed forever, she sat in her small office at the university, grading papers about ancient civilizations and sipping her third cup of coffee. The stack of student essays seemed endless, and she was already thinking about her evening plans when her secure government phone buzzed. The device looked just like any other smartphone, but Rebecca knew better. Only a handful of people had this number, and calls usually meant she'd be packing her bags within hours. As a cultural expert who studied how different societies lived and worked together, she'd help the government understand various groups around the world. But this call would be different from anything she'd ever experienced. The message was short and mysterious. It came with official seals she recognized from the United Nations. But the words made her heart race. Dr. Martinez, your immediate presence is required for a cultural consultation of the highest importance. A car will arrive at your location in 30 minutes. Please bring nothing except your identification. This matter involves national security. Rebecca stared at her phone screen, reading the message 3 times in her 7 years of government consulting work. She'd never received anything this urgent or secretive. Usually, they gave her at least a week's notice and detailed briefings about where she was going and why. This felt completely different. She quickly saved her work, grabbed her purse, and waited by the window. Exactly 30 minutes later, a black sedan pulled up outside her building. The driver wore a dark suit and sunglasses, looking like something straight out of a movie. He simply nodded when she approached and held the door open without saying a word. The drive took almost 2 hours through Virginia countryside she'd never seen before. They passed through multiple security checkpoints, each one more serious than the last. Guards examined her identification, scanned her with metal detectors, and asked her to step out of the car for additional screening. The whole experience felt surreal, like she was entering a completely different world. Finally, they arrive at what looked like an ordinary office building surrounded by tall fences and security cameras, but as they got closer, Rebecca noticed details that made her realize this was no ordinary place. The windows were tinted so dark she couldn't see inside. Satellite dishes covered the roof, and armed guards stood at every entrance. Inside the building, a woman in a navy blue suit greeted her. Dr. Martinez, thank you for coming so quickly. I'm Agent Thompson from the State Department. What I'm about to tell you must never leave this building without official permission. Rebecca nodded, feeling her stomach flutter with nervous excitement. She'd signed confidentiality agreements before, but something about Agent Thompson's serious tone made this feel much more important. 3 weeks ago, we made contact with representatives from what we can only describe as an advanced civilization. From outside our solar system, Agent Thompson continued, watching Rebecca's face carefully. They've requested formal diplomatic meetings, but there's a problem. They don't understand human behavior at all. Rebecca felt the world spinning around her. Aliens. Real aliens. She'd always wondered if life existed somewhere else in the universe. But she never imagined she'd be sitting in a government building discussing actual contact with extraterrestrial beings. They've specifically asked for a human cultural expert, Agent Thompson explained. Someone who understands how our societies work, how we communicate, and why we behave the way we do. Your name came up as the best candidate for this assignment. Rebecca's mind raced with questions, but Agent Thompson continued before she could speak. The being you'll be working with calls itself Ambassador Zephyrine. It's been studying human behavior from a distance, but our ways of living confuse them greatly. They need to understand us before formal negotiations can begin. They walked down a long hallway line with doors that required special keycards to open. The building felt like a maze of secrets, and Rebecca realized she was about to become part of something that could change human history forever. What exactly do they want to know? Rebecca asked, finding her voice at last. Everything. Agent Thompson replied. How we greet each other, why we smile when we're nervous, why we form friendships, how we handle disagreements. Things that seem natural to us are completely foreign to them. Their species operates on pure logic, and our emotional responses don't make sense in their world. They stopped in front of a door marked with symbols Rebecca didn't recognize. Agent Thompson placed her hand on a scanner, and the door opened with a soft hiss. Dr. Martinez, you're about to meet someone who traveled across the galaxy to understand what makes humans human. Are you ready? Rebecca took a deep breath and stepped forward through the doorway. She could see a room unlike anything she'd ever imagined. The lighting was soft and blue, and in the center stood a figure that made her catch her breath. Ambassador Zephyr was tall, almost 8 feet, with skin that seemed to glow with a gentle blue-gray light. Their large amber eyes looked at her with unmistakable intelligence, and when they spoke through a small device that translated their musical language into English, their voice was surprisingly warm. Dr. Martinez, the ambassador said, I have traveled very far to meet you. My people need to understand yours, and I hope you will teach me what it means to be human. In that moment, Rebecca realized her quiet life as a university professor was over. She was about to become humanity's first teacher to an alien civilization. And the success or failure of this incredible meeting could determine the future of both their species. The next morning, Rebecca found herself in the strangest classroom of her life. The room looked like something from a science fiction movie, with walls that seemed to glow softly and furniture that adjusted itself to accommodate both human and alien body types. She sat across from Ambassador Zephyr, still trying to process that this was actually happening. The ambassador held a crystal-like device that sparkled with inner light every time they spoke. The device translated their musical, chime-like language into perfect English. But Rebecca noticed something interesting. Sometimes she could almost feel the emotions behind the words, even before the translation came through. Dr. Martinez, the ambassador began, their large amber eyes fixed on her with intense curiosity. My people have watched your species for many cycles of your sun. We have seen humans do things that make no sense to us. You say words that mean the opposite of what you intend. You show your teeth when you are not feeding. You touch each other for no practical purpose. Rebecca couldn't help but smile at this description, which made the ambassador lean forward with great interest. There, they said, pointing at her face, you are doing it now. Your facial muscles have moved to display your teeth, but you are not eating. In our observations, this same expression sometimes appears when humans are experiencing distress or attempting deception. Please explain this contradiction. This was going to be more challenging than Rebecca had imagined. How do you explain a smile to someone who has never felt the warmth of happiness or the need to show friendship? She took a deep breath and decided to start with the basics. This expression is called a smile, she said, touching her face. Humans smile for many different reasons. Sometimes we're happy. Sometimes we want to show we're friendly. And sometimes we're just being polite. The context matters a lot. The ambassador made notes on their crystal device, which seemed to capture not just her words but somehow recorded the feeling behind them. Context, they repeated. This is a concept my people struggle with. We say exactly what we mean. Always, if we are displeased, we communicate displeasure. If we require something, we state our requirement. Your species appears to communicate in layers. Rebecca nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Human communication is like an iceberg. What you see on the surface is just a small part of what's really being communicated. The tone of voice, body language, facial expressions, and even what we don't say all carry meaning. Over the next few hours, Rebecca demonstrated basic human interactions. She showed the ambassador how humans shake hands, explaining that the gesture showed trust because it proved neither person was carrying a weapon. She demonstrated different types of eye contact, how looking directly at someone showed attention and respect, but staring too long could be threatening or uncomfortable. The concept of personal space fascinated the ambassador greatly. You maintain invisible boundaries around your bodies. They observed as Rebecca stepped closer and farther away to show comfortable distances. Yet these boundaries change based on your relationship with the other person and the situation you find yourself in. That's right, Rebecca said. I might stand close to a family member, but farther from a stranger. In an elevator, we accept being closer to strangers because we have no choice. but we avoid eye contact to maintain psychological distance. The ambassador's skin seemed to shimmer slightly, which Rebecca was beginning to recognize as a sign of deep concentration. Your species has created complex rules that are never spoken, but everyone understands. This is remarkable and highly inefficient, Rebecca laughed, and the ambassador immediately wanted to understand this new sound. She explained how humans use laughter to show amusement, to bond with others, to release tension, or sometimes even to avoid awkward situations. The ambassador requested multiple demonstrations, studying her facial expressions and the sound she made with scientific intensity. In my society, the ambassador explained, we have specific tones for specific purposes. We have a tone for agreement, a tone for disagreement, a tone for requesting information. But your laughter seems to serve multiple functions simultaneously. As the days continued, their sessions became more complex. Rebecca introduced the concept of small talk, conversations that weren't really about exchanging information but about maintaining social connections. This concept nearly broke the ambassador's logical mind. You discuss the weather. Even though both parties can observe the weather conditions themselves, the ambassador said, clearly struggling. You ask about each other's well-being without expecting detailed medical reports. You speak about activities you have no intention of participating in together. What is the purpose of these exchanges? Rebecca realized she was teaching the ambassador about something much deeper than just social customs. She was trying to explain the human need for connection, for acknowledgement, for the simple comfort of shared experience with others. It's not about the information, she explained. It's about showing that we care about each other as people. Small talk is how we maintain the invisible threads that connect us to our community. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment, their skin cycling through different shades of blue and silver. Finally, they spoke. Dr. Martinez, my people have advanced technology and efficient systems. We have eliminated conflict through logic and expanded across multiple star systems. But we have also eliminated something that your species possesses. Naturally, we have observed that humans will risk their own safety to help strangers. They will share resources with no expectation of return. They will create art and music that serves no practical function. These behaviors appear illogical, yet they seem to provide your species with something we cannot quantify. Rebecca felt a chill of understanding. This wasn't just about teaching alien customs for diplomacy. The ambassador was trying to understand something their advanced civilization had lost or never had: the messy, wonderful, and efficient beauty of human emotional connection. Ambassador, she said softly, I think you're trying to understand what we call heart. It's not logical, and that's exactly what makes it so important to us. 3 weeks into their daily sessions, something remarkable was happening between Rebecca and Ambassador Zephyrine. What had started as formal cultural lessons was slowly becoming something neither of them had expected, a genuine friendship between two beings from different worlds. The ambassador's questions were becoming more personal and complex. They no longer just asked about human customs, but seemed genuinely curious about Rebecca's own experiences and feelings. Today, they sat in their usual spots in the strange glowing room, but the atmosphere felt different, more relaxed somehow. Dr. Martinez, the ambassador began, their musical voice carrying a tone Rebecca had learned to recognize as deep thoughtfulness. I have been analyzing the concept of friendship that you explained to me last week. My people form alliances based on mutual benefit and shared goals. But human friendship appears to exist even when there is no practical advantage. Can you help me understand this better? Rebecca smiled, noticing how the ambassador's skin brightened slightly whenever she did that. They become fascinated by her facial expressions. Friendship is one of the most beautiful parts of being human, she said. Friends support each other not because they have to, but because they want to. They share joy and help carry each other's burdens. The ambassador's large amber eyes studied her carefully. But surely there must be some benefit, some logical reason for maintaining these connections? The benefit is emotional, Rebecca explained. Friends make us feel less alone in the world. They understand us, accept our flaws, and celebrate our successes. When something wonderful happens, friends make the joy bigger by sharing it. When something terrible happens, friends make the pain smaller by helping us carry it. The ambassador was quiet for several minutes, their crystal recording device shimmering as it captured not just her words but somehow the feelings behind them. Rebecca had learned that their technology was far more advanced than anything humans had. It could actually read and record emotional states. Dr. Martinez, the ambassador, said finally. "May I share something personal about my species?" Rebecca nodded, surprised by the request. In all their weeks together, the ambassador had focused entirely on learning about humans, without revealing much about their own people. "My people achieved what you might call perfection many thousands of years ago," the ambassador continued. "We eliminated disease, scarcity, and conflict. We expanded across many star systems and developed technology that seems like magic to your species. But in our pursuit of logic and efficiency, we also eliminated something else. We no longer form the bonds you call friendship. We work together, but we do not truly connect." Rebecca felt a wave of sadness wash over her. The idea of a civilization without friendship, without the warmth of emotional connection, seemed incredibly lonely to her. "Is that why you volunteered for this mission?" she asked gently. The ambassador's skin shifted to deeper shades of blue, which Rebecca had learned indicated strong emotion in their species. "Yes," they admitted. "I was curious about something my people had lost. Watching your species from afar, I observed behaviors that seemed inefficient, but also beautiful. Humans waste time talking to each other about meaningless things, yet they seem happier for it. They help strangers who cannot repay them. They create art and music that serves no practical purpose, but brings them joy." Rebecca felt tears beginning to form in her eyes as she realized the profound loneliness this advanced being must have experienced. The ambassador noticed immediately, leaning forward with concern. "Your eyes are producing moisture." They observed, "In our studies, this response is associated with distress." "Have I caused you discomfort?" "No," Rebecca said, wiping her eyes and smiling through her tears. "These are happy tears. I'm moved by what you've shared with me." In human culture, when someone trusts us enough to share something personal and important, it often makes us emotional. The ambassador studied her face intently. "So these tears indicate not distress, but a positive emotional response to connection." "Exactly," Rebecca said. "You've just given me a gift by sharing something meaningful about yourself. That's what friends do. They open their hearts to each other." Something extraordinary happened then. The ambassador's skin began to glow more brightly, cycling through colors Rebecca had never seen before, warm golds and soft greens mixed with the usual blues and silvers. The ambassador looked down at their own arms in apparent surprise. "This is unexpected," they said, their voice carrying wonder. "My species' emotional responses have been dormant for so long. I had forgotten we were capable of such reactions. What you call friendship appears to be triggering biological responses in me that I thought were extinct in my people." Rebecca felt a thrill of excitement. "You're feeling connection," she said. "Real, genuine connection with another being. That's what friendship is. It's the hearts recognizing something valuable in each other." Over the following days, their sessions transformed completely. The ambassador began sharing stories about their home world, describing crystal cities that sang in harmony with stellar winds and gardens that grew in patterns based on mathematical formulas. But they also talked about the emptiness they'd always felt, the sense that something was missing from their perfect logical existence. Rebecca shared her own stories too, about growing up with 3 sisters, about losing her grandfather when she was 12, about the friends who had supported her through graduate school and the colleagues who had become like family. She noticed that the ambassador's skin responded to every emotion in her stories as if they were learning to feel by experiencing her feelings. "I understand now why your species fights so hard to protect each other," the ambassador said one day. "When you care about someone, their well-being becomes connected to your own happiness. It is not logical, but it is powerful. But their growing friendship also brought serious concerns. The ambassador confided that not everyone in their coalition supported peaceful contact with humanity. Many of their leaders viewed humans as too unpredictable, too emotional to be trusted with advanced technology or interstellar relations. Dr. Martinez, the ambassador, said, their skin showing colors Rebecca had learned indicated worry. I must tell you something important. The High Council will arrive soon to evaluate my progress. If I cannot demonstrate sufficient understanding of human nature, they may decide that formal relations with your species are too dangerous to pursue. Rebecca felt a chill of fear, not just for herself, but for her new friend and for all of humanity. What would that mean? At best, they would isolate your planet indefinitely. The ambassador replied quietly. At worst, they might decide that humanity poses a potential threat to galactic stability. My people have witnessed other species destroy themselves through emotional conflicts. They fear humans might do the same on a larger scale. Rebecca realized that everything they'd shared, all the friendship and understanding they built, would soon be put to the ultimate test. The fate of two entire species might depend on whether she successfully taught an alien ambassador what it truly meant to be human. The news hit Rebecca like a thunderbolt. Agent Thompson burst into their usual meeting room with an expression that made Rebecca's stomach drop. The High Council ships have been detected approaching Earth, she announced breathlessly. They'll be here in 48 hours, not the weeks we were expecting. Ambassador Zephyr9's skin immediately shifted to deep purple and black, colors Rebecca had learned meant intense stress in their species. This is much sooner than anticipated, the ambassador said, their musical voice carrying tones of worry. My people are efficient, but they are also impatient. If they have arrived early, it means they have already made preliminary judgments about humanity. Rebecca felt panic rising in her chest. After weeks of building friendship and understanding, they suddenly had less than 2 days to prepare for what could be the most important test in human history. What exactly will they expect from you? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. They will present me with scenarios involving human behavior, the ambassador explained. I must demonstrate that I can predict and understand human responses accurately. If I fail to show sufficient comprehension of your species, they will conclude that humans are too unpredictable for safe contact. The next 36 hours became the most intense cramming session of Rebecca's life. They worked around the clock, practicing scenario after scenario. Rebecca created mock situations involving everything from business negotiations to family disputes, testing the ambassador's ability to understand not just what humans might do, but why they would do it. Remember, Rebecca coached as they practiced. For the 100th time, humans don't always say what they mean directly. If someone says that's fine in a sharp tone while crossing their arms, what are they really communicating? They are expressing displeasure while attempting to maintain social politeness. The ambassador replied, their skin glowing with concentration. The contradiction serves to communicate their emotional state without creating direct conflict. Perfect, Rebecca said, but she could see the strain this intensive preparation was putting on her alien friend. The ambassador's usual graceful movements had become more rigid, and their skin rarely showed the warm colors that indicated contentment anymore. As the final hours approached, something unexpected happened that nearly destroyed everything they'd worked for. Rebecca and the ambassador were in the hallway during a break when a new security guard, who hadn't been briefed about the alien presence, rounded the corner and came face to face with Zephyr-9. The guard's reaction was immediate and instinctive. He shouted in surprise, reached for his weapon, and backed against the wall with terror written across his face. What is that thing? He yelled, his voice echoing through the corridor. Rebecca watched in horror as the ambassador's skin flashed bright red, a color she'd never seen before that clearly indicated alarm. The ambassador's height seemed to increase as they straightened to their full 8 feet, and their large amber eyes fixed on the guard with an intensity that was undeniably intimidating. Stand down, Officer Peterson, Agent Thompson commanded, as she rushed into the hallway, but the damage was already being done. The guard was radiating fear and hostility, and Rebecca could see government officials watching from nearby doorways, taking notes on how this interaction would unfold. This was it, the real test. Not a practice scenario, but a genuine moment of human-alien contact gone wrong. Rebecca realized that how the ambassador handled this situation would determine everything. For a moment, time seemed frozen. The guard remained pressed against the wall, his hand still near his weapon. The ambassador stood tall and alien, their skin cycling through colors of alarm and confusion. Rebecca could almost hear the thoughts of the watching officials. If the ambassador couldn't handle one frightened human guard, how could they possibly navigate complex diplomatic relationships? Then something beautiful happened. The ambassador's skin slowly shifted from red to the soft blue-green Rebecca had learned indicated calm thoughtfulness. Zephyr 9 deliberately made themselves smaller, bending slightly and taking a step backward to increase the distance between themselves and the guard. Officer Peterson, the ambassador said through their translation device, their musical voice carefully modulated to sound as non-threatening as possible. I apologize for startling you. I understand that my appearance is unfamiliar and possibly frightening. I mean you no harm. The guard blinked in surprise, clearly not expecting the creature to speak, let alone to apologize. Rebecca held her breath, waiting to see how he would respond. I'm sorry, the guard stammered, slowly lowering his hand from his weapon. I wasn't told. I mean, nobody said there would be a being from another world, the ambassador finished gently. This is understandable. Your reaction is completely normal for a human encountering something outside their previous experience. In fact, your protective instincts show admirable dedication to your duties. Rebecca watched in amazement as the ambassador continued to diffuse the situation using everything they had learned about human psychology. They acknowledged the guard's feelings, validated his reaction, and even praised his commitment to security, all while demonstrating perfect understanding of human emotional responses. Your species processes unexpected encounters through what Dr. Martinez has taught me to understand as the fight or flight response. The ambassador continued conversationally. Your initial alarm was biologically appropriate. Now that your mind has had time to process the situation, your natural curiosity is beginning to overcome your fear response. The guard looked confused but increasingly less frightened. How do you know that? Because, the ambassador said, and Rebecca swore she could hear warmth in their translated voice. I have spent many weeks learning what makes humans the remarkable beings you are. Your capacity to move from fear to understanding, sometimes in just moments, is one of your species' greatest strengths. By the end of the 10-minute encounter, Officer Peterson was asking questions about the ambassador's home world and seemed genuinely fascinated rather than frightened. The watching officials looked impressed, and Rebecca felt tears of pride in her eyes. Later, as they returned to their preparation, the ambassador seemed different somehow, more confident, more genuinely at ease with human interaction. That wasn't practice, Rebecca said. That was real. Yes, the ambassador agreed, their skin showing satisfied gold tones. And I believe I understand now what you have been trying to teach me. Human nature is not something to be memorized or calculated. It must be felt and experienced to be truly understood. With just hours remaining before the High Council's arrival, Rebecca realized that her alien friend had finally grasped the most important lesson of all. Understanding humans meant understanding the heart, not just the mind. Now they could only hope it would be enough to save both their species. The day that would change human history forever started with Rebecca standing in front of a mirror, trying to calm her nerves. In just 2 hours, she would witness the most important meeting between species that had ever taken place. Her hands shook as she adjusted her jacket, knowing that everything she had taught Ambassador Zephyr 9 was about to be put to the ultimate test. The High Council chamber had been specially constructed for this moment. The room was larger than HFY space Rebecca had seen in the facility, with technology that seemed to bend light itself. 3 massive chairs sat at one end, clearly designed for beings even larger than her friend Zephyr 9. The air hummed with energy from devices she couldn't even begin to understand. When the three High Council members entered, Rebecca felt her breath catch in her throat. Each stood nearly 10 feet tall, their skin shifting through colors that seemed to contain entire galaxies. Their amber eyes were larger and more intense than Zephyr9's, and when they looked at her, she felt as though they were reading her very soul. The center council member, who seemed to be their leader, spoke in tones that made the translation device work overtime. I am High Counselor Apex 1. We have traveled far to evaluate the progress of our ambassador's cultural studies. The future of both our species depends on what we observe today. Rebecca stood beside Ambassador Zephyr9, drawing strength from their presence. Over the weeks of working together, she had come to think of the ambassador not as an alien being, but as a dear friend who happened to come from another world. Now, watching them face their own people's judgment, she felt incredibly proud of how far they had come. Ambassador Zephyr9 announced the second council member. You will now demonstrate your understanding of human behavioral patterns. We will present scenarios, and you must predict and explain human responses accurately. The first test was relatively simple. The council projected a holographic scene showing humans in a business meeting where one person disagreed with a proposed plan but didn't speak up directly. Instead, they used body language and subtle verbal cues to express their opposition. Ambassador Zephyr9 analyzed the scene perfectly, explaining how the humans crossed arms, lack of eye contact, and use of phrases like "I suppose that could work" actually communicated strong disagreement while maintaining social harmony. The council members took notes on their crystal devices, their expressions unreadable. The scenarios became increasingly complex. They showed family gatherings where multiple conversations happened simultaneously, workplace situations involving unspoken tensions, and social interactions where humans said one thing but clearly meant another. Each time, the ambassador demonstrated not just understanding of what humans were doing, but genuine insight into why they behaved that way. Rebecca felt hope growing in her chest as she watched her friend excel. But then the third council member, who had been silent until now, spoke with tones that made the air itself seem colder. These demonstrations show memorization of patterns. The counselor said dismissively, any advanced computer could analyze and predict such behaviors. We need to test true understanding. The council member activated a device that filled the room with an uncomfortable tension. Rebecca realized they were deliberately creating a stressful environment to see how the ambassador would respond under pressure. Ambassador Zephyr9, the counselor continued with deliberate harshness. Explain to us why humans would risk their own lives to save complete strangers. This behavior serves no logical purpose and actually damages the survival prospects of the individual. Why do humans engage in such clearly destructive actions? Rebecca's heart sank. This was exactly the kind of question that had no logical answer, the kind that had always frustrated the ambassador during their early sessions. She watched as Zephyr9's skin shifted through several colors, indicating deep thought and some stress. For a long moment, the ambassador was silent. Rebecca could feel the weight of both species' futures hanging in the balance. Then something remarkable happened. The ambassador's skin began to glow with the warm gold and green colors that Rebecca had learned indicated not just understanding, but genuine emotion. Honored counselors, Ambassador Zephyr9 began, their musical voice carrying tones Rebecca had never heard before. I have spent many cycles studying this question with Dr. Martinez. Initially, I approached it as you do now, seeking logical explanations for seemingly illogical behavior. The ambassador paused, looking directly at Rebecca with what she could only describe as affection before continuing. But I have learned that the question itself is flawed. Humans do not save strangers despite the lack of logical benefit. They save strangers because of something far more powerful than logic. They possess what they call empathy, the ability to feel another being's pain as if it were their own. When humans see suffering, they respond not with calculated analysis, but with immediate emotional connection. The High Council members leaned forward, clearly intrigued despite their skeptical expressions. Furthermore, the ambassador continued, their confidence growing. This seeming weakness is actually humanity's greatest strength. Species that care only for individual survival create civilizations of isolated beings. But humans create something we have lost, communities where the success of one truly benefits all. They call it love, compassion, and friendship. These are not logical concepts, but they create bonds stronger than any technology. Rebecca felt tears streaming down her face as she listened to her friend describe humanity with such beautiful understanding. In studying humans, the ambassador concluded, I have rediscovered something my own people eliminated long ago in our pursuit of perfection. Dr. Martinez has not just taught me about human customs, she has shown me what it means to care about another being's happiness more than your own logical interests. She has given me the gift of friendship, and through that friendship, I have learned that some of the most important truths in the universe cannot be calculated or analyzed. They must be felt. The chamber fell completely silent. Rebecca could see the council members' skin cycling through colors she didn't recognize, clearly processing something they hadn't expected. Finally, High Counselor Apex 1 spoke. Ambassador Zephyr 9, you have demonstrated something remarkable. You have not just learned about human nature, you have experienced it. This changes our evaluation significantly. What followed was a series of rapid discussions in the council's musical language, too fast for the translation device to keep up. Finally, the High Counselor turned to Rebecca. Dr. Martinez, your species has accomplished something extraordinary. You have taught one of our kind to feel again. The Council approves formal diplomatic relations with humanity, and we request that you serve as the first director of interspecies cultural relations. Rebecca felt the room spinning around her. Ambassador Zephyr 9's skin erupted in brilliant displays of joy, colors so beautiful they seemed to sing with light. Furthermore, the High Counselor continued, Ambassador Zephyr 9 is requested to remain on Earth as our permanent representative. They believe they have more to learn about what they call the beautiful logic of the human heart. Months later, Rebecca stood in the newly constructed Interspecies Cultural Institute, watching human and alien students learn from each other in ways that would have seemed impossible. Just a year before, Ambassador Zephyr 9 had become not just Earth's first alien resident, but Rebecca's closest friend and colleague. As she watched a young human student teaching a visiting alien child how to laugh, Rebecca smiled, remembering that first nervous day when she thought she was just going to explain human customs. Instead, she had discovered that understanding between different beings wasn't about logic or analysis. It was about opening your heart to someone completely different from yourself and finding the universal truths that connect all living beings. The future stretched ahead, full of possibilities neither species had imagined when they were alone among the stars.